think this will be a very good video because I'm not really feeling the muse. And, you know, usually I'll feel the muse. I'll have an idea of what I want to say and I'll get on and I'll be able to just speak and upload, and that's it. Because I don't write anything, I don't edit, just have a chat. And I don't really know what I want to say here, but I've just been prompted to jump on by something that I watched on Unmasked. So I'm not talking about Masked Therapist, I'm talking about Unmasked. Vanessa. Have you watched her? I think Vanessa might be, I'm so sorry if I get this wrong, of True Psych Ward. Dr. B, I'm not sure. I'm sorry, Nessa, if I've got that completely wrong. So Vanessa went to Salida, driving up from Broomfield. So Broomfield, the interesting site around Holiday Express, isn't it? Because Holiday Inn Express, isn't it? Where incidentally a friend of the woman from Poncha Cafe is a housekeeper. It's an interesting site. This is the wasteland where Jeff Puckett, when he photographed himself on site there on May the 12th, and he showed that wasteland in the reflection of his sunglasses. Yeah, that wasteland. There's a lot of wasteland there. So she drove from that wasteland up until Longhorn Ranch. That's just outside of Salida. Longhorn Ranch development is something I've been talking about since June. And Vanessa said something interesting, and she is very good with her reportage. She's very good with her facts. She said that Longhorn Ranch hasn't been searched. Now, isn't this interesting? Why, I don't know. Why drones haven't been over, why dogs haven't been out, I don't know. I mean, are the sections all under different titles? Cops didn't get the okay from people, all the different owners of the different sections? Or is there one property developer and they couldn't get the okay from, they couldn't get a warrant from the judge for a search? That would be weird. Barry wouldn't let them on the one that they bought, him and his mum. I mean, surely you could get a warrant. So I don't know what to think about this. I don't know what to think about why Longhorn Ranch wouldn't have been searched. Because I've spoken before about sites that should be searched, and we know that they've searched Riverside Beach property in Salida. Flat. Now that just sounds like someone tried to make Barry Morphew out to be Carol Baskin, if you ask me, but you would need the site to be level, and there have been law enforcement on site there. They've had a search there. Concrete was cut up, in fact. The home, of course, the hunting lodge, searched twice. I would expect that the camping ground where Mallory and Macy have been has been searched and that people have been questioned. And I would also expect that the RV park was thoroughly searched. Anyone that lives there has been questioned, and people that were there have been chased up, whether they're in Nebraska, whether they're in New York, whether they're in California now, whether they're in Florida, whether they're in Hampshire, Nova Scotia. They need to all have been spoken to. If they haven't been, well, that to me is very remiss as well, because you need to be able to tick things off the list as well as on, don't you? And if it was an abduction, I mean, we don't know. Number one, let's just say, Suzanne is a missing woman. Suzanne Morphew is missing from Maysville, Colorado. Suzanne Morphew is not necessarily deceased. And no matter what I thought, I don't think I would be able to talk about my sister as being deceased, or my wife, or my mum. You know, I would have to know. Anyway, besides the point. There is a chance that Suzanne was abducted, and if she'd gone on her bike and gone for a cycle, where would you go? Well, on Mother's Day, I think you'd probably actually want to go into town, wouldn't you? You'd take yourself into the town. You wouldn't head out, as I'd possibly thought, up to Monarch Pass and do some sort of just nature cycle that way. I think if that were me, I'd want to head out to the town and go for coffee, go and get some bacon and eggs, and maybe meet up with a friend there on Mother's Day, or just go into where people are and just have a little destination to go to. And she couldn't go down Puma Path because apparently it was flooded. So you'd think, oh, well, you want to stay off the highway, you'd go down Puma Path. You've seen me all cycling around. If there is a pathway, 500 metres to the west of a highway, that's where I'm cycling, isn't it? I'm not on the highway. And she would have had to have gone exactly where the bike is. And that's where RVs are going as well, isn't it, when they're heading west? So, it could have just been an opportunistic crime, and the bike would have just been biffed down the hill. Maybe something went flying on the other side as they got her in the door. We don't know. And I keep saying this, we don't know. It's the Latin injunction, ignoramus. We do not know. And it is a small possibility, okay? It is a possibility, actually. Probably a higher percentage. I know it doesn't look good for old Barry. But, what does your heart tell you? Some people's heart, they just can't go there. Even though the head might say, look, we've really got to look at this chap as the main suspect. But if law enforcement have done that only and have not looked at these other options thoroughly, then they are extremely remiss. RV park, RV drivers, people living in the RV park, people living in town, the site around Broomfield, the campsite where Mallory and Macy went to, talking to people at that campsite who were there at the time, asking to see Mallory and Macy's photographs of the time, just to gauge what sort of time they were having. They've got records, they've got phone records, car records, etc., right? It is extremely interesting if Slider's Longhorn Ranch site has not been checked. When I spoke about it in June, it was with regards to, well, the Morphew family would have known all along, for many years possibly, that Longhorn Ranch was an upcoming development, not only as a site to have for Mrs. Morphew to live, which is near infrastructure. When you're an older person, you probably want to be near infrastructure, medical care, just community services and things, okay? Those are the things that occupy your mind, you don't want to be as isolated. It's an excellent area for someone to live, especially someone older like that. So they would have known about the site for a while. Barry would have been there many, many times, choosing the block, and I don't know what are different sections owned, so law enforcement would have to get permission from all these site owners, or is it just still under one property developer's name legally? So, but did they not get permission? Why has this not been searched? I don't know. It's very odd. So I hope that's I kind of hope that's not true, but Vanessa is very good, so I'm not sure. I'm sure she's actually discovered that somehow. Verified, you know. But, you know, this whole thing that people are saying she's within 30, 40 miles, she'll be easily found, is, I find it quite disgusting. Law enforcement aren't whispering in someone's ear saying that, you know. They don't jeopardise their cases like that. I mean, I know we don't have a lot of faith in Chaffey County, do we? Law enforcement, but, you know, they don't do that. So it's coming from someone's little head, and Birdie's in his ear, possibly. Well, likely. You know, I think to say that is just... Because if anything happened to Suzanne, and I tend to agree with Vanessa here as well, that Friday the 8th would be the date, maybe. And... or Thursday night, or something like that. And that Suzanne is long gone. But... because why use those sites? You know, yes, you'd be wanting to set up a timeline. No, you do not want to be the one that's ringing in a 911 call. We all know that, don't we? So you want to be far away. You want someone else to be putting up the alarm. But there's a lot of variables. There's a lot of weird shit. And there's a lot of speculation that then seems to steamroll somehow into these theories, when what's the point of doing that when you're basing it not on fact but just on something it's not necessarily true. It doesn't help solve the mystery. It doesn't help solve the mystery. Yeah, so has no one flown drones over Longhorn Ranch? I kind of find that hard to believe. You know, Longhorn Ranch is contentious for several reasons, but, you know, on one hand it makes it, why would someone feel like they're losing so much if they could just live at Longhorn Ranch? You know, the hunting lodge is great and all, but it's not like lifestyle would have to change really dramatically. And if you're still working, running a business or two, you just keep going. You're a young man at 50 still, and, you know, you can still make another fortune in another 5 or 10 years if you're wanting that earlier retirement. You know, so motive, when people say money is motive, we don't know. We don't know. Rage, control, yes, possible, we don't know. Revenge, jealousy, troubled dealings, yes, maybe, we don't know. Yeah, but that is very strange, because I would have expected Longhorn Ranch to have been searched several times. You know, the development there, that's contentious because people want the work, and when you're aware of the site because you're thinking of buying or because you want the work, 2 or 3 years, we don't know what bullshit's been going on about that. But I just can't have faith in Chaffey County law enforcement. It's very troubling. I'm very happy to be proven completely wrong. And I hope that's the case. But, you know, look, Suzanne is missing. She shouldn't be presumed dead. It is likely, yes, but Suzanne may not be dead. Suzanne could have been victim of her husband, premeditated or a rage event, spur of the moment event, yes. And that could have happened any time over a period of a few days. She could be at a few sites around within, yes, 30 miles, 40 miles, or 160 miles of the home. But she could be victim of an abduction, and she could be long gone. She could have been victim of a kidnapping gone wrong. I mean, there are so many strange things. Yes, I know, 26 minutes. Bull rides are longer. I've said, you know, maybe he thought that was a really good crack. But, you know, with bull rides, if bull ride is 8 seconds, hey, staying on the beast for 26 seconds, yeah, it could be a victory. That was all just very, very odd. And it kind of made me think, wow, does Barry think that someone he knows has his wife? Was he terrified they would kill her? And then the silence afterwards. I mean, if I were Barry, I wouldn't want to be near you guys at the search either, because I think it's dangerous. If he's innocent, I don't think that speaks to guilt or innocence. I don't know. I think the situation is so dangerous and so bizarre. He knows people want a piece of him, whether it's reporters, whether it's MOPs, whether it's vigilantes. I mean, I think it's a powder keg. I tried making this video before. I pulled out triality, which is about the heart. But, you know, as the saying goes, don't think with your heart, because your heart has to keep beating. That's what it's concentrating on doing. Your brain is doing so much, isn't it? So your gut digests things. Gut has a lot of nerve endings. It's directly relating to the brain. So, you know, what do you go with? Your head, your heart, your gut? You just have to go on fact as it unfolds, and there's a lot of weird stuff around this case. So many things are actually possible, even if there is one that seems more likely. So much is possible. Sorry, this is a really dreadful video. So let's think about motive, sight, and roots of the mountain. Transformation. The end of old ways, beliefs, or situations occur so you can expand into greater awareness. Let's think about the people around Barry. You know, how are we thinking about people like Morgan and Jeff, Trevor and George, the neighbour at Fuma Park, the neighbour at Salida? What are we thinking about Chaffey County Law Enforcement and what they're saying or not saying? Creative engineer. You have a creative intelligence that is capable of multiple solutions. How are we thinking about the relationship between Barry and Suzanne? They've been a partnership, they've been friends, they've been lovers, they've been parents for decades. How are we thinking about the relationship, you know, what within us is projecting onto that relationship. What influences are projecting their ideas about the relationship that we are taking on board? Emotional tapestry. The inner workings of your emotions is a delicate tapestry, weaving growth, awareness, and wisdom into your life. How are we thinking about the daughters? How many reasons are there for them not to speak? Are there places that we don't want to go? How much emphasis should be placed on the girls? How much emphasis should be placed on their trip? How much emphasis should be placed on their silence? How much emphasis should be placed on the lack of relationship with extended family? Is that up to us to weave into the narrative? Is it key? Is it key to the narrative? You know? Besides Barry, they're the most important people. Heart healing. Sorrow lives in you to know love. It summons truth and calls forth light, transformation, and forgiveness. How do we feel about the search? How do we feel about what might be found, what won't be found? Have you thought about the aftermath? Do you think about if or when nothing is found, what next? What next? Sovereign. Claim your sovereign self and seize the throne of your own life. Yeah. So anyway, big chat about nothing. Just wanted to let you know about Unmasked, Vanessa. She went from Broomfield site to Salida's Longhorn Ranch, and she told us that Longhorn Ranch had not been searched by law enforcement. Well, it's tricky to discuss it further. I mean, it is disgusting if that is the case. It's tricky to discuss it further because we don't know, is it a case of no search warrant being granted? Is it a case of no permission being granted by property owners? I mean, you don't want to think that it's just a huge damn oversight, so it can't be an oversight, surely. I mean, because even early on, FBI were involved in this case because Little Chaffey County knew its limitations, didn't want to bite off more than it could chew. But we don't know enough. We don't know enough of what they've done. We don't know enough of what they've written off. And I think that's wrong. I'll tell you what, another thing that's wrong is, trying to make it out like some guy cares more about his motorcycle than Barry cares for his wife and things like that. I mean, Barry could well be, okay, yes, a killer. He could well be someone that is so confused, shy, naive, stupid. I mean, he could be a damn genius. You know, we don't know about his temper, about how controlling Barry is. We don't actually know that for a fact. The girls could tell us what has been happening. But, you know, going by John Schmidt, who is a mentor of Andy Mormon's son, I mean, yes, okay, that incident's happened because cops were called. Was this at a time when Barry had just found out that his beloved wife had been diagnosed with cancer? Was he a little bit short shrift at the time? Was he under pressure? Was he trying to get her away to the mountain? Is he watching cleanliness because he doesn't want to take bugs from a hotel back to his wife who is compromised in COVID times? Is that house always smelling of bleach? Can Mallory and Macy tell us that? Because we don't even know if it did, because now this is secondhand. Oh, someone has said to someone who told somebody that the home smelled like bleach. Well, I think if you've got a cancer survivor in your home, they are at risk of COVID-19 in this clusterfuck year. That home would have to be spotless. I would be having a cleaner come in twice a week, cleaning surfaces, all sorts of things. I would be quarantining things before they came into my home, even groceries and things. I mean, you know, are you looking at the big picture? I'm not saying, and I've never said, I think Barry is innocent or that I know that he's guilty, anything like that. But I think, are you analysing the right things? Do you get a snippet of information, whether it's true or not, and what do you do with it? You know, what do you do with it? Barry's never addressed that he was the one that dropped in that note. Barry himself has not addressed all sorts of things. Okay, so, I mean, cool it down a little bit, because this is a very dangerous situation and people can get harmed. I wish all the searchers very well. Safety is paramount, and that is safety for everybody. I think a lot of people that say they are good people can be quite ashamed of themselves, but you know, there I go, school mom, and that's wrong, I know, but I really think it's a dangerous situation. You know, how can he be in somewhere? He wouldn't want to take his daughter there. This is a dangerous situation. I don't know, if I were Barry Morphew, if I were innocent, that I would want to be there now. Yes, I don't know why he didn't arrange man-hours of searching. Maybe because he just feels like his wife has been taken and gone, is utterly gone, and he's been searching for clues himself. I don't know. We don't know. But we need confirmation about what has been done in this investigation, don't we? We need confirmation about what has been followed up with regards to all the players, with regards to all the sites, and this is RV people, drivers, highways out to the west, miles, hundreds of miles away. What vehicles have been tracked, you know, at petrol stations, at wherever, at roadhouses. You know, what imagery is there of Barry's truck? I mean, for example, too, I mean, you listen to, oh, there's no tools. Yes, there were tools, but you're all going, oh, there's no tools, this is a lie. There were tools. Okay, now that might be part of a spun narrative too, yes, but there were tools. Just stop it. I can't explain how frustrated I get and why I just can't talk about this case anymore. Number one, because you get called all sorts of things. And, I mean, listen to how we're being told to think about someone. Just a little old hot dog. Oh, she's just a hot dog vendor. I mean, this is gaslighting you. That might be true. People that are organising the search, yes, they might be the best person in the world, but to telling you that someone is good people, telling you how to think about someone, saying that they don't have a bad bone, that they are godly, etc., when they have ripped off their workers, stolen tips. I mean, that's illegal activity by someone that is more than just a hot dog stand vendor. Okay? That is controlling the narrative. That is telling you how to think about someone and not to think for yourself. It doesn't mean anything. It doesn't have to mean that someone is not a loving brother and a good person and the only one that's sort of driving a search and everything. But it doesn't mean that they are a freaking saint. We don't have saints and sinners here. We are human beings. We are all humanimals. Some are more humanimal than others, but we are all humanimals, and no one is perfect, and it does no one any good to tell people that people are perfect, above reproach, to play certain things down. People talking about their heart, they try to find it hard to believe in their heart that Barry has done something to Suzanne. Well, yeah, I kind of understand that, because you don't want it to be the truth, and you want to believe in their love. And on some levels, on many levels, you should be able to, you can. But yes, it does look bad. Uroxicide is possible. And other things are possible too. And I was going somewhere with that. It is not right to be told that someone is perfect, all above board, and that you should just worship them. Support them is another thing. Support the cause. Supporting finding Suzanne. It doesn't mean you make one person the devil and one person a saint, and especially when they're not. I mean, I get called a victim basher. And that is not true, because I'm not bashing Suzanne. And Andy Mormon is not a victim. He is suffering the loss of his sister. This is true. As all of her family, all of her friends are suffering the loss of Suzanne, okay? Now, we don't know if she's dead. She is missing. And we do not know what happened to her. We do not know. I can't help it if my gut just tells me I just dislike Andy Mormon. That could be for any reason at all. So what? I dislike him. But I've never said anything that isn't true about him. And that is the fact that a lot of the root source of things that people believe about Barry as being lies, that may not be lies or actually have been proven not to be, have come from this source. And that's why my gut doesn't like him. I didn't like him instantly. There, I've said it. On sight. Blank.